Ethical Perspectives on the News is produced by the Interreligious Council of Linn County, which is solely responsible for its content. The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of KCRG TV9.
Good day and welcome to Ethical Perspectives on the News. My name is Linn Tabak. I will moderate today's discussion. Our topic today is how the small colleges are adapting to a set of evolving and changing challenges. To help us in this discussion, I have three guests from three different local colleges, and I'm going to add a little introduction to myself since I'm not only moderator but part of this topic myself. So I have Tom Castle from Mount Mercy University, and Paula O'Loughlin from Coe College, and Shanata from Cornell College. And I'll just mention briefly myself that in addition to moderating these discussions, my day job is teaching computer science at Cornell College. So Jai is one of my colleagues each day. So let me ask you to introduce yourself a little bit. So I'd like to know your role at each of your colleges, and then maybe say a word about some of your special concern that brought you to our discussion today about changes that are happening and what concerns you there. So Jai, you're my colleague at Cornell College, so I'll let you go first. A little favoritism to the home team here.
All right, well, thank you, Linn. So I'm an associate professor of chemistry at Cornell College. In addition to teaching chemistry on a daily basis, I work with our pre-health professions program to help advise students on that career pathway. I've also been involved in our core curriculum discussions, and we'll be launching a new core curriculum for all students at Cornell in this coming fall, including our common first year seminar. And for the last few years, I've been on our budget and benefits committee.
Great. And Paula at Coe College?
I'm Paula O'Loughlin. I'm Provost, which is similar to being the principal or assistant principal at a public school. And that is, I'm in charge of the faculty and the academic programs for the college. And I've been engaged in discussions about small colleges since I've been working at small colleges in Minnesota and in Iowa for the last 20-something years. And so engaged in national conversations on that as well.
All righty. And Tom at Mount Mercy, your role?
Yes, I am Associate Provost. I've been with Mount Mercy almost 30 years.
Okay.
I believe very deeply in the value of a liberal arts education.
Okay.
And that's why I'm here today.
Okay. All right, so back to Jai here for a moment. Jai, you talked about a core curriculum and a first year seminar. Why don't you say, so some of our audience may not understand all of these terms. We're trying to make sure that every student has some experiences, every single student, and then they make individual choices as well. Is there more to say about what we're doing there with what a core curriculum means?
I think that's right. I guess would add that every student has at least one major at all of our colleges. And so what we talk about when we say the core are the other pieces. What is it that defines, say, a Cornellian as they graduate? And that has evolved over time, and it's continuing to evolve. The focus in our latest revision is on, among other things, making sure that every student has the potential to succeed. And so we wanted to make sure that we start them off right and have some really common experiences to help them identify with that liberal arts.
Okay, and Tom, Mount Mercy is a little bit different than Coe and Cornell. Coe and Cornell may be more similar to one another than to Mount Mercy. Is that fair to say? Would you like to tell us how Mount Mercy's role in this community?
Sure. We have a traditional campus as well, but we also historically have served the working adult population. Mm-hmm. So we have a pretty substantial number of students that study in our adult evening program and in our graduate program. So we have close to 700 students that are what we consider to be non-traditional. So we've always done a good job of serving that population, and that's something a little different than what Coe and Cornell have.
Yeah, and you also have a graduate program, which neither one of us has. So you're in that situation. Cornell has the block plan, and then Coe has the traditional liberal arts semester kind of model. But we also have a liberal, we embrace and have embraced since we were founded the importance of liberal education for those in pre-professional programs as well. So we've always had business majors and things like that, as well as
Okay.
English majors, and that's important. That's an important distinction between us and some other schools.
Is there nursing there as well?
We have had nursing. We have not had nursing since the college was founded, but we've had it almost as long as that.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to invite you to nominate the next topic here, but I've had some experience at my college. My dean has, I think, invited the faculty to think more about the future for our institution, not assume that the future will be what the past was like. So you're in that role, leading the faculty, and what are you telling your professors that they should be thinking about? In addition to teaching computer science or chemistry, we should be thinking about the institution's future. And
Well, we want to be thinking about a couple of things. I think we want to be thinking about the fact that our market and the question of what's the return on investment at our small private colleges is not a given in our world of higher education and our social landscape more broadly. I think we want to be thinking about how students are learning today. As the parent of teenagers, I can say that they read differently than we read, and they're visual learners, not textual learners. And so, how does that change how we interact with, how we share material? I think that's an important thing. I also think we just have to understand that the sheer number of students out there is changing. That we're on the phrase that you want to be using is there's a demographic cliff coming for all of us in higher education. It started, it's coming really around 2023, 2024, but you can already see parts of it in New England area, as we saw in the news in the last couple of years in Vermont and Massachusetts. There's been fair number of small colleges that have closed. So that doesn't mean that we should all panic, but I think it does mean that we have to think about ourselves in a different way, in a more entrepreneurial way, while staying true to the values of liberal education. And you can, and then I'll stop pontificating. You can teach liberal education and the skills that define it through a variety of subjects, and they don't have to be in the sort of the traditional core.
right. So Tom, I'm interested in your role at Mount Mercy. I think a dean helps shape the faculty, has a role in recruiting faculty and promoting and retaining faculty, and then guiding faculty in their work. Is this part of your job changing? What do you see ahead there?
Yes, and I would echo what Paula said as well. Faculty need to be more responsive to the needs today, and I think we're seeing that. I think we as educators need to do a better job of communicating the value of what we're doing. Oftentimes the students are questioning, why am I taking this class? And we have to go beyond saying, you're taking it because it's required. They want to know, why am I taking it? And we've got good answers, we just aren't always able to articulate those like we should. And that's, Jai is working on the core curriculum, and that's a question that we're answering right now in our core curriculum, trying to put it in more in terms that the population is going to better understand. And we tend to use a lot of academic speak. We need to use some student speak, because that's where the customer is. I hate to say that word customer, but that's the student population today.
And we're much more diverse socioeconomically, ethnically, all sorts of ways than higher education was 30 years ago.
Right.
And that's going to change us. And we're proud of that.
Okay. What changes do you see coming here, Jai? Or what message are you getting from your colleagues and the administrators of our institution?
Yeah, I think one of the messages is that faculty should be bold and try new things. And I think that I feel privileged that our calendar allows that, but I think that visionary faculty anywhere can really take that on and say, I'm going to try something new this semester. It's one of the benefits of tenure, and if it doesn't go well, that's okay. And so I think that idea of, as Paula mentioned, of meeting students where they are, I've had students pressuring me, for even this block in Organic 2, on the differences between reading the textbook and the YouTube videos that they're watching. And so that's certainly a message that I'll take away, and the next time I teach that course, this course, try to adapt to a certain extent. And then, if I may use it as an example again, helping students to understand, whereas 20 years ago they might have said if they're pre-med, they're going to take the course and they're going to work really hard. They're asking the why. And part of the why, we talk about the value of problem-solving skills and these other transferable skills, collaboration, writing, that we have them do a paper. So I want them to be able to articulate, as scholars who have studied at a liberal arts institution, that range of skills that they're taking away, as well as some content.
I think Jai's just hit at one of what I think of as the most important thing, which is where we haven't closed the gap, we haven't closed the deals, we haven't taught students how to articulate what we're bringing, the added value of liberal education when they go in the job market. And that's a crucial piece of what we need to do better. I think we all have great faculty at our institutions. I know Cornell has great faculty, as does Co. and Mount Mercy. And what we haven't done, though, is help them understand, the students understand and articulate that what they're learning has much more to do, will transcend the content knowledge, and it has much more to do with the ways we're teaching them to approach problems, that we don't even know the problems yet. So that's the skill they're walking away with from our institutions. And we're all talking about creativity, innovation, those things. Whether you're at any of our schools or any school, no matter what size they are right now, that's what we're talking about. We're paying attention more.
So there's some parts of the country where public institutions dominate higher education. And here in Iowa, we have a long history of many small colleges, and the same is true in Minnesota, Wisconsin. There's something here that isn't elsewhere. Does anybody want to say anything about why this kind of institution ought to have a good future, ought to be preserved? How we complement the public institutions?
Well, I could talk about them right now. Right now, what's happening with the public institutions is they're actually, whatever state you're in, and there's been studies on this by Nathan Graw and some others, the public institutions are becoming the institutions of the upper middle class, more so. And so the private institutions have become increasingly the places where the students who have been historically underserved are going towards. And so we flipped roles, where 60 years ago we were in the completely different roles, and the public schools were the ones that were the vehicles for social mobility, and the private schools were the ones that were sort of bastions of places where people whose parents had gone to those schools or similar schools. And we've switched, and we're now the colleges. If you look at the studies, there's been several in the Wall Street Journal over the last few years. If you go to small liberal arts colleges, your social mobility outcomes are much greater. Your true family
Can
history.
we get a prize for that there, Jai?
Yeah, we've recently ranked #1 in the nation on that. And I think it's a true part of what we are able to do for students.
Yeah, and so that is something we really have to talk about. There's a societal benefit for us as well, that we all benefit when people learn the arts and skills of free citizens, which is what the liberal arts means. But for individual families, the fact of social mobility and the life choices are different. That's a pretty invaluable opportunity that we provide society.
And I think that speaks to the mission of all of our institutions. We have that purpose, and we want to help those students achieve that mobility.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the changing needs of our students. So you mentioned economic circumstances of our students, but amongst ourselves, I think we've also been talking about health needs. Some students come without sufficient academic preparation to succeed, without some extra help outside of the classroom. We worry about the emotional health of our students. Some students are attracted to our campus because we can, they hope, provide a degree of physical safety as well that they might not think they're going to get elsewhere. So let's talk about those parts of our programming that take place outside of Jai's classroom and my classroom, and who else at the college is delivering these services.
Well, it's taken a great deal of investment on all of our institutions' parts because growing mental health concerns create demand. We have students that we are recruiting and encouraging to come to school that maybe didn't qualify 20 years ago, so, which means we have greater need for service. So we've got peer mentoring, we've got summer bridge programs, we've had to create a great deal of support for the kinds of students that we want to serve. It's well worth it, but it just takes some infrastructure to be able to get that up and running.
I think we do the same thing. So one thing that we probably are able to do because we're in Cedar Rapids is that we are able to collaborate with some local partners regarding mental health and some of the other services that we provide. Should not forget the power of emotional support animals. So.
Shai, tell us how you're engaged. So you're teaching organic chemistry, but at a small college, we all wear many hats. So tell the audience a little bit about how you engage with other parts of the faculty and staff, and how you're engaged in students in ways other than just teaching them about carbon and hydrogen and so on.
Sure. So one example, and actually Leon participated in this group a couple of years ago, is called Sustained Dialogue. And so this is a group that meets right now every week with a team of to have an ongoing dialogue with myself and get to know each other well and identify if there's a particular aspect, usually related to identity, that they would like to explore, that they might see some challenges on campus to address. And so that's one of many ways that our faculty and staff engage and try to work with students as whole people, right? Not just the academic side of what they do. As well as, of course, the wide range of activities that our students are engaged in, whether it be theater or choir or going to their sports games, sometimes against co. Those are all enjoyable activities, and it's fun, frankly, for me to see students in their many different hats.
Yeah, I agree.
So we've greatly expanded and strengthened our career office at Cornell College, and I'm impressed with what my colleagues are doing there, and I'm pleased to have some role with that myself. And they do more than just teaching students how to write a resume or how to prepare for an interview. There's some work there to help students acquire life skills. We know that some of our students are coming from small towns in Iowa, and they think about taking a job in Chicago or another large city, and that's a big jump for them. Can you talk about what you're doing for your students in this regard, and in career advising and life skills development and in some of those areas? Any one of you here? Yeah.
I can talk about our C3 Center, the Center for Careers and Community. We started that as part of our strategic plan a couple of years ago, and it's really taken off where it's not just careers, it's also preparing for the interview process, it's also internship preparation, it's also connecting people with when employers come to campus to meet with them, actually externship trips with students on spring break, things like that. So really focus, bringing students into that office, not when they're seniors, but when they're first years, to begin to think about building their portfolios and what kind of experiences, curricular and co-curricular, might help them develop that resume that will get them that first job. So we do a lot of work with that, a lot of work with job shadowing with a local alumni as well. Tons of wonderful co-hawks out there who are willing to help us out. And then we're also exploring something totally different than that, which is we're working with Nubo Co. and trying to help facilitate people who are maybe interested in entrepreneurship and startups. So that's all going on through our C3 office.
I've gone to a couple of startup weekends with my students. You want to say something about
Sure.
what you're doing?
We have an initiative that we're in the midst of launching right now to give 100% of our students an experiential learning opportunity.
Right.
So it's either an internship, it might be a study abroad, a high impact practice that we really feel gets them entrenched into a deep learning situation. So we just feel that getting them in the community or in their research field in a real active way with an employer, a professor, is going to pay great dividends.
So can you elaborate a little bit? What do you think your students will take out of that that's different than taking a class? So we have a class now, I think, in the Bahamas, right? So aren't they there now? And sounds very romantic. What are they going to get that they wouldn't by studying the same critters in a glass bowl in our classroom building in Mount Vernon?
We actually took a literature class to Paris,
Okay.
and they studied literature related to what they were seeing in the museums and in the field, and that was just a terrific experience. But life experience means a great deal, and especially if we ask students to reflect on how that life experience connects with what they're learning in their discipline. So I think getting them out into the world is very important in the learning process.
Right.
And it sounds like we're on the same page, and as part of our new core curriculum, students will also do a couple of those high impact practices.
Have you had any off-campus experiences with students?
I do not teach an off-campus course.
But if you, on a field trip, a day trip, no?
So no, but although our Career Center does organize over block breaks, so between the blocks, they want to do day career trips. I think you've been on some of those with them in the
Yeah, I've
past.
done some of this. I've never taken responsibility for a whole group of students in another country, but I've traveled with another professor who was the one who would get the calls from the parents if anything happened. I was amazed that it's become much easier, of course, because when the train door closed, everybody had cell phones. So if somebody was on the wrong train or the wrong car, it was easy to bring them back together again. And I was very impressed with the responsibility and the maturity of our students, too, when we went off campus. So I spent 3 weeks in Austria and Germany last year. Everybody on time for every meeting. It was, I mean, no grumbling. You think you put people in a hotel room with a non-familiar person for a couple of weeks, there's going to be some quibbling or quarreling, but everybody did very, very well. So, yeah, okay. All right, so let's think of something else we want to talk about. Are our relationships with alumni changing? Is there an opportunity there? Maybe this is not a topic that you're ready to talk about, but maybe.
It is.
Yeah.
I think we want to engage our alumni more. Our alumni are very good messengers of the value of our degrees. Our alumni tend to see the three of our institutions as very different. So one of the things that we want to also help people understand is that all of those alumni are going to be very helpful for the next generations of students. But it's also important to understand that there are ways in which we can collaborate together and each of our institutions will become stronger. So let me suggest that one of the things we could talk about is the ways in which we're addressing some of the challenges of small colleges in the Cedar Rapids area by collaborating more amongst our three institutions on things.
Yeah, let's learn a little bit about that. You know something about this?
I know about our alumni
Okay, go ahead.
connections.
Yeah?
We have, I think I'll echo what Paula said, our alumni are the lifeblood of what we do. And having taught at Mount Mercy for 30 years, I have a lot of close relationships with our alumni.
Right.
They want to be involved in a real personal way. I'm discovering they like to mentor. They like to speak in classes.
Yeah.
They like to get as involved as they can, and it's critical to stay to build those relationships. We have the fortune of having alumni come back to our graduate program now.
Okay.
That's been real gratifying to me to see a kid that I taught 25 years, a kid that I taught 25 years ago come back and get a master's degree, and they become even more entrenched alumni because they have such a good long life experience with the institution.
I had the opportunity a couple of years ago to spend an evening with our alumni board doing chemistry experiments and talking with them about what it is that we do. Some of our, I think a good number of our board of trustees were actually at Cornell before the block plan, and so they continue to be very interested and learn about what we can do now.
So I do think, I mean, alumni engagement is a critical part of CO, but I do want, because I probably know the most about the ways in which we're working together, we're sharing faculty with Mount Mercy. Our students can take courses across each other's institutions, and then the institutions balance out the amount of resources spent once a year. We share equipment with Cornell. So lots of ways in which we share. We have a class that's being taught jointly to Mount Mercy and co-students. Lots of ways in which we are trying to make it possible for more students in this region to take advantage of all the unique gifts of each of our institutions. And if we all do better individually, we'll all do better collectively as well, and vice versa.
So Jai, you are an alumnus of Cornell College,
That's right.
who's taught elsewhere, who spent some time in a distant part of the country studying for your degree, and now you've returned. What insights does that experience give you, having studied at the college and then returned to teach the students?
It's interesting both to see how much students have changed, and I think that we were talking before the program started, changed at all of our institutions, as well as aspects that are the same. And so aspects of our curriculum are relatively static, and we already addressed ways in which we might give faculty some bravery to move on. But it's also true that, that students have this sort of changing set of needs and ways of engagement, and maybe need to continually be re-recruited and rededicated to the institution. If they can articulate the value of a liberal arts education, then all the better. And so I think being purposeful in that is important. There's we have an emeritus faculty at Cornell who would sometimes use the phrase to his classes, don't let your class, the one he's teaching them, don't let your class get in the way of your education. There's so much more that what students can do, and so that's something that I've seen at varying levels at different institutions. Residential liberal arts colleges give students the opportunity to be deeply engaged in a wide range of activities, and I think that that's something that I want to continue to encourage our students, faculty, and staff to take advantage of.
Okay. We're near the end of our program, so I'm going to ask you to think for a moment if you have a final message for our audience, something you want them to think about when we close this program. One of the things I've noticed at Cornell is that, and I noticed this as well, I do some work for the College Board in the Advanced Placement Program, and I'm seeing again and again that we're asking instructors to think more deliberately about the goals of their course. So I don't just teach about computer science. I teach about computer science with the aim of meeting an institutional goal of helping students to reason, of helping students to communicate, of helping students to think about a future vocation or profession, and so on. And each of us at the college is working with these same goals with a greater degree of deliberateness than in the past. Okay, so I've got like, I don't know, a minute and a half or 2 minutes. So we're going to go around the table here. Is there a message you'd like to share with our audience?
I think it's important for each of our schools to succeed. And work together, as Paula said. I think we're facing a time when I'm hearing language in the political environment, in the national environment, that what's the value of education? We're doing some great things, and I think the outcome of what we're doing is measurable and valuable, and I think we need to stick together.
Okay, we got to really.
So small L liberal education, what we all do is the cornerstone of our political process as it was intended to be. We teach the arts and skills of citizenship, and we should never forget that that is so important for our society and our world.
Yep.
Okay.
Those are the students we produce, and we do it as cheaply as we can, and I think Paula's right, by enhancing collaboration, we'll continue to be able to do that.
Thank you very much for joining us on Ethical Perspectives on the News. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. See you next time.